Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of The Inside on Equinoxe Television, broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we will take a critical look at the anti-government protests rising up in the Republic of Cameroon, 1 year down memory lane into the major national dialogue, an event which took place from the 30th of September to the 4th of October 2019 with the aim of finding solutions to the Anglophone crisis. Has that been achieved? We will answer that question in this edition of The Inside. We'll also talk about back to school, the academic future of pupils and students in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. And of course, we will look at historical facts concerning 1st of October, the day former Southern Cameroons gained independence. Thanks for staying with us. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is ABDULKARIM Ali, an outspoken Muslim scholar, joining us today. You're welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me once more, Mr. Babila.
All right, we'll begin with the rising anti-government protests in the Republic of Cameroon, orchestrated by some opposition political parties who are protesting against a number of issues: poor governance, the bad electoral code, what they qualify as a bad electoral code, and of course the deepening Anglophone crisis. What do you think about these rising protests by supporters, militants, sympathizers of the CRM political party and its allies, and of course other Cameroonians who took to the streets on the 22nd of September 2020, protesting against some of the ills, some of the issues which they consider as ills affecting the country negatively?
Let me begin by praising God, and I ask Him to send His blessings upon righteous men and women who've lived, upon His prophet, to the people of Southern Cameroons, and to the world entirely, and to the staff members of Equinoxe and you yourself. Thanks for that question, though it is not something I preoccupy myself with. To begin with, I think it's a fundamental right for citizens even of La République du Cameroon to take to the streets to present their concerns and express themselves the way they wish, non-violently. That is a fundamental right enshrined in the Constitution, so they have the right to do that. As you know clearly, myself and many other Southern Cameroonians, our fight is not the same. We basically are not into a revolution, trying to overthrow a government. That is not essentially what we are seeking after. We are looking more after what we call justice. This protest that is being led by Professor Maurice Kamto and Kawala and so on, to us we find them as those protests that seek to change or to maintain a status or some privileges. But we are actually fighting for justice and survival. Yeah, so and the protest is being met as usual with stiff resistance, repression from security and defense forces, and some of the leaders who are today under house arrest or in detention, some militants, some protesters who are equally in detention, and so on. When you look at all of this happening, what's your analysis of the reaction of government? Oh yeah, the government is a brutal one, and I think I've said it once and it's worth repeating. It appears to me that the military, or you can say the law enforcement officers of La République du Cameroon, are not trained to defend fatherland. Fatherland consists of the people, the territory, and its constitution. These people don't seem to appear to people who are trained to defend that. They are trained to suppress and brutalize any uprising. That is their forte. However, what I like to say is the hypocrisy in this particular protest of 22nd of September 2020. They picked, I don't know why, but I would estimate that the 22nd that was picked of September is basically to deal with another 22nd. If you remember the 22nd of September 2017, Southern Cameroonians were on the street for the same thing.
Cameroonians from the northwest and southwest regions were on the streets. Now, why do you think that security and defense forces in the Republic of Cameroon are trained to be brutal. They are saying that we are there to maintain public peace and order. We are there to ensure the security of the people. But you are saying that they have been trained to be brutal?
Indeed, and in fact, that is what we can see. From their action, you can see them, and by their fruits, we've seen them. I was trying to say that on the 22nd of September, Southern Cameroonians took to street to plead for their comrades to be released from prison and to ask for reforms. More than 300 fell on that day by live bullets. Pepper-rich water was sprayed on them, tear gas on them, people were beaten, bones were broken. So this is the brutality I'm talking about. I don't know if it's what is a coincidence or is fortunately or unfortunately, but we see something opposite happening when people took the street on this other side of the Mongol. Not even a live bullet was used. And we didn't see all the kind of violence that would have been meted on the people of Southern Cameroon if they were the ones on the street. So yes, of course, the military is extremely brutal. And when they say they are there to maintain public order and peace, look, you cannot keep talking about things on the surface level. If there is public disorder, the only way to keep order is to ask what caused the disorder. Beating people would not stop an idea and an ideology. So, and again, what is peace? Does peace mean police standing with sticks and guns to beat those who are trying to talk? No, that is not peace. That is called violence. That is actually the word, violence. Someone who is protesting as a right, internationally and nationally, and you are there to stop them from doing it. You are the ones propagating and purporting violence that other person is not. So I mean, it just begs the question what this is all about. Actually, it is a logical fallacy to think that they are not trained for that. I don't think they are trained to defend fatherland or protect it. They are trained to suppress and shut down opposing voices.
A group of over 5 political parties and civil society organizations met here in Douala, including the CPP, and they are demanding for the liberation of Professor Maurice Kamto and all the other leaders who have been under house arrest or who have been detained, and the militants, and of course some members of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform. Are you also calling for their release?
Well, primarily it's not really my concern per se, because Southern Cameroonians have been dying and are suffering in jails for 4 years. It took 2 years for us to get the voices of the likes of Maurice Kamto, basically, which is a political move. It was a political leaning in 2018 when their presidential election was coming up. But of course, as an activist of justice, I think it is very, very uncivilized that on this day, simply because a political leader advises his followers to try and protest to make a change in the situation in a country, and then they are under house arrest. At the same time also, I say that perhaps Professor Maurice Kamto is unserious, because he knows his country and he knew that was going to happen. If he really wanted to be on the street on the 22nd of September 2020, if he wants to be on the street, he wouldn't have been in his house. He would have been elsewhere and protested from elsewhere. He knew that
soldiers were deployed to his house with
what I'm saying is that
vehicles.
He knew. He knows his country. He knew. He knows how they operate. He knew, because threats had come just soon after he made his plans public. I don't know why he did that, by the way. You don't make such plans public. But threats had come, and he knew that was going to happen. If he truly wanted to march, if I were him, definitely I would not spend the night, or I would not spend a week in that house. Nobody would know my whereabouts, and I would simply surface to protest with my people somewhere, and then let the words come. But again, the whole thing, when I look at it through the eyes of someone who is fighting for survival and justice, the whole thing, again, I could just term it a hype. It was hype to water down the significance of the 22nd of September 2017. That's why that day was picked. That is why those things were done.
And that was the day Cameroonians from the northwest and southwest regions of the country came out in their numbers on the streets across the two regions, protesting against marginalization, protesting against attempts, what has been qualified as attempts to assimilate the two English-speaking regions of the country. And following that, from the 30th of September to the 4th of October 2019, a major national dialogue was organized, bringing people from across the board, political, religious, civil society leaders, to discuss how to restore peace in the two restive northwest and southwest regions of the country. 1 year down memory lane, what is your take on what has happened, what is happening in those two regions with regards to efforts to restore peace and normalcy?
Oh yeah, and again on the 22nd of September 2017, Southern Cameroonians did not come out to really protest against marginalization or assimilation. They came out to protest for justice. And it's very important we underline that. Those marginalizations and torture, insult, attempts to assimilate, deprivation and pauperization, balkanization, those are just the symptoms. That is not why they came out.
They are manifestations of what you qualify as injustice.
An injustice. And that is not why more than 300 were killed for that day. More than 300 were killed to suppress truth, not the truth or a truth. Truth about this whole matter. Just a correction. And talking about the grand, it's really a grand national dialogue. We see how grand it was and it is now. You're asking me 1 year down the line, what has changed? Nothing was going to change because the national dialogue seeks to address internal problems of La République du Cameroon.
Of the Republic of Cameroon.
Well, I choose the French appellation because the French appellation is the name that was given to the French territory that was colonized by France and given independence on the 1st of January 1960 by France, and the appellation is in French. Pretty much as I prefer calling Ivory Coast Côte d'Ivoire. I prefer it that way.
We will come to independence issues of 1960, 1961 and so on later in the program. It is 1 year today since that happened, and you think that nothing was going to change. Are you saying that nothing has actually changed?
Oh, nothing has changed except the fact that you aggravate the people more. The national dialogues like that are very good in solving internal problems, are very good in trying to analyze where we've been from, where we are, and where we intend to go as a people. But the truth is, the national dialogue, though it said that the Southern Cameroon's problem was going to be top of the agenda, but of course they are going to regard other things. That national dialogue cannot answer the problems of Southern Cameroon. It cannot even address the air that smells by the name.
I want us to agree on something.
Yes.
I want us to agree on something, then we can proceed. We're talking about the northwest and the southwest regions today, or former Southern Cameroons. I want us to agree on that. Then we can go forward to talk about the problems concerning those two regions.
You see, Mr. Babila.
And the issue is that the people came together to seek for solutions. And you foresaw at that time that nothing was going to change, and now you think that nothing has changed. What do you make of the new decentralization code, the special status that has been implemented, the reconstruction plan with the recovery part of it covering 3 years being handled by the United Nations Development Program, and all the other efforts that are going on? The Minister of External Relations, speaking before the United Nations General Assembly, said the situation is under control, meaning that something has been happening on the ground.
Yeah, all that in one word, cart before the horse. But before then, you said we should agree on something. Mr. Babili, you see, you can choose today to say that I'm not a child of my mother. And I can even say that myself, that my mother didn't give birth to me. That is my wishful thoughts. It's my wishful thinking. But the fact is that the only how I came to this world is through that woman. So the fact, again, is that that is Southern Cameroons. And for many reasons, people can choose different ways of calling it. That's fine. But if you want me to put the word former, I cannot say former Southern Cameroons. That territory has not changed from being Southern Cameroons, but I can say former British Southern Cameroons. The former would go to the territorial supervisor at that time, which would be Britain, but not on the territory. There is no way my mother is a former woman to me.
The fact that
whether or not I like it.
The fact that Apostle Paul is known as Apostle Paul today does not change the fact that his name was Saul, and his name is still Saul. So Apostle Paul
absolutely,
or Saul,
absolutely,
the same person. But in this case, absolutely.
When you talk of Saul, I'll just correct that a bit.
I want us to really be official on some terms that we are using. I want us to use the terms that are known in the books of the Republic of Cameroon that we are talking about. We will certainly come to all those issues.
And you're right with that. You're right with that, Mr. Babylon. I'm telling you that I'm not that. I'm not going with the construct of a colonialist. All of you, and you're saying the books in the Republic of Cameroon. The Republic of Cameroon, like Republic of Cameroon, cannot write the history of Southern Cameroons. Why? Because they will only be told about some things or the parts they played. The only writers of true history of Southern Cameroons can be Southern Cameroonians who write history. People write history, most times the winners. But if you want to get historians are interested in what you call closeness to source. The closer to the source material, the more authentic and more reliable the stories can be. So the closer to the event, the better the story. Who can be closer to my event better than me? Or my brother?
Not, of course, the United Nations.
Sorry?
But the people of Cameroon.
No, the United Nations could be a source.
Very far from us.
The United Nations can be a source, but historians are not interested in only one source. They want different many sources that do not collaborate but corroborate. So they want different people talking about the same thing, corroborating some more without collaborating, because once they collaborate, it means one source. But
all right. The national dialogue now. Yeah, what do you think about what is being done so far within the context of the recommendations?
So I'm saying they are doing what you call, they've been fumbling between names, reconstruction, and then they go to recovery. The same names under the same scheme.
So recovery is a part of the reconstruction and development plan, which will run through 3 years.
Yeah, so I said cart before the horse. There is no conflict situation in the history of international relations, international policy, international diplomacy that has worked that way in a case where there is war. That is cart before the horse. What must happen is that there must be ceasefire. That is the first thing that happens. And if at all you need reconciliation, depending on the context, if it is purely internal, or negotiation, if it is an international one, which is this case, it is an international case, it's not a national case. And then you can talk about reparation, you can talk about reconstruction, you can talk about demilitarization. So this is all cart before the horse. Any genuine diplomat, any genuine politician will look at you in the eyes and say, these are all wrong steps in the wrong direction. Not even wrong steps in the right direction or right steps in the wrong direction. No, wrong steps in the wrong direction. It won't work. It doesn't work. There's a natural law, and then there is logic, there is philosophy that governs this world. La République du Cameroon cannot invent one. So again, what I'm saying is that all of those things, they are not even equal to window dressing, neither are they equal to cosmetic. They are purely wrong. What is wrong is wrong. Listen to me, Mr. Babila. From the time the National Dialogue held, which is a year ago till today, many more Southern Cameroonians are in jail, many more are dead. We have fresh cases that, you know, the Naka River, people were found in it. Ngomgam just last 2 weeks, children have been killed. The streets have been militarized with brutalization and arrogance. All of the military deployed, let me talk about Bamenda, where I come from. All of the military deployed, and none of them speak English. I mean, if I came to solve a problem between you and your wife, for example, Babila, or you and your brother, the first thing I must be able to...
But General Equinoxe is English speaking.
Is there in Bamenda?
He is the commander of the 5th Gendarmerie region.
I don't know what you mean English speaking. I'm talking about the people deployed on the streets. And I'm here as a witness, and please just go down there and talk to them. They tell you that they will not speak English. That is even the condescending attitude that they put towards it. They tell you they will not speak English. You must do your best to speak in French. I'm saying that if I came to solve a problem, if I came to find peace, the first tool I need is communication ability. I need language. I need to understand the people, and I need to speak to them in the best way they can understand me. How would this happen when people don't understand English? Now, doesn't La République du Cameroon have Anglophones working in the system? They do. Wasn't this going to be the best time to deploy all of them who understand the culture, understand the people, so that at least that brutality... Mr. Babila was stopped at Mulang by military. One asked for my identification, which I presented. The other one asked to check the vehicle, which I stepped out and opened the boot and he checked. That one was even polite enough, perhaps because he found me a Muslim. He's a Muslim from the north. He said I should go. The other one said no, that I should park the car and go and sit down with about 18 others that were sitting. I said, what for? What is my crime? What is it that I've not done? Why must I sit down? And the next thing is to parle à qui? I'm talking about last week. You're talking about 1 year of national dialogue. Whatever Southern Cameroonians are decrying has only increased. Many more people are going to the jail. Many more people are still escaping to the bushes. What has really changed? Nothing. Many more homes are being burnt, as you report on TV. What has changed? Nothing. What has changed? What has changed for national dialogue? Nothing. What has changed on the ground is more radicalization, more anger, more pain.
The situation has been deepening.
It's deepening.
Even though the authorities continue maintaining that the situation is under control and that there is progressive return to normalcy in some areas qualified today as blue zones, where some of the recovery projects will start according to the United Nations Development Program.
Just before you go to the next question, let me say something. You can never pretend to give people what they need. You can never pretend to do that. Until the people tell you what they need, you don't know what they need. In this case, Southern Cameroonians have made it exorbitantly clear of what they need and what they want and how they want it. And any rightful thinking government cannot give what they think and how they want to people who have defined what they want.
As far as the recovery plan is concerned, that is handled by the United Nations Development Program, and the officials of the UNDP say that they are going to ask the people what they need to. They are going to make an assessment, the material and financial needs, and they'll provide the material and
again, that's a mistake.
And the people will do the reconstruction themselves.
So that's a mistake again. I'm saying Southern Cameroonians don't want financial and earthly things. That's not what they are asking. They are asking for something this simple.
But they have to live while expecting that. They should not be in the bushes.
They cannot live with the guns. They are asking for justice. I mean, which one is expensive? If the United Nations is not a house of hypocrisy, permit me use this word, which one is expensive? Exacting justice or trying to camouflage? When look, all the outcomes of the injustice are rather increasing, all the outcomes. Violence, insults, brutality, jailing people, killing them, they are on the rise. And then what is there to do? Talk about that particular justice. The United Nations Development Project, or whatever you call it, they know that it won't work. They have experts of conflicts resolutions, post-war solutions and policies. They know all of these things. They know it won't work. They are playing by the book. But this book will fail. Mankind is growing and it changes. What doesn't change is God. But our environment and us do change. I hope you must have heard that in my Santa, snow fell yesterday. Whether it is global warming or global cooling, whatever it is, this is to show that we can claim to be stagnant. We can claim to deny things. But the inevitable truth is clear. That
the realities are there.
Realities
the truth is there.
Yeah.
We're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week, and we'll be right back in some few minutes. The Horizon questions more extrajudicial killings in Bamenda, northwest region of Cameroon, highlighting corpses found floating in Bali, Bafut and Mankan. According to The Sun, the major national dialogue organized to find solutions to the Anglophone crisis has failed despite some achievements recorded. 1 year after the event, the paper highlights the war still raging in the northwest and southwest regions, special status yet to be implemented, and some achievements including the common law sections at the National School of Administration and Magistracy, ENAM, and the Supreme Court, the law on regional and local authorities the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest regions, among others. The Star goes beyond the achievements and shortcomings of the major national dialogue and elaborates on the people's expectations. In the Guardian Post, a United Kingdom clergy calls for urgent international intervention in the Anglophone crisis. Eden reviews misdeeds, threats and legal actions preceding regional elections, and the Post unveils what it qualifies as a scheme by the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) political party to lord over Cameroonians for generations. The Guardian Post reports that pro-independence leaders are backing effective school resumption in the Northwest and Southwest regions. And while government assures pupils, students and parents of safety from insecurity and coronavirus ahead of school resumption as reported by the Post Weekender, the Guardian Post projects communities in the Donga Mantum division leading preparation for effective back to school in the crisis-hit regions. Thank you for staying with us. We are still with our guest, ABDULKARIM Ali, Muslim scholar. Thank you once more for being with us today. And now we're going to take a look at a very remarkable date in the history of Cameroon, beginning with the former British Southern Cameroons, and then Cameroon today as one nation on the 1st of October 1961, the former British Southern Cameroons gained independence by joining the then La République du Cameroon. And this date is practically left in the cold as far as the celebration of some important dates in the country's history is concerned. What do you think about this?
Oh yeah, I thank God again once more for giving me the grace and making me one of those people who see this day again. This is the day of the independence of Southern Cameroons. And it is not ABDULKARIM Ali talking. It is the United Nations telling the world by giving this information to the Greco-Roman calendar. If you just open your phone, now your calendar, you see 1st October, it is clearly written, the day of independence of British Southern Cameroons. So it's not me saying. This is a fact. Resolution 1608 gave Southern Cameroons her independence. This is why we keep saying that you can beat us, do whatever, but you need to deal with those facts. This is why we are not looking for independence. That's not what we're doing. The word restoration is being used, and people say separatists. Unfortunately, so-called Anglophones call Southern Cameroonian separatists. Some even go overboard to say secessionists. Is this not madness of the highest order, ignorance, stupidity, foolishness, or just simply being a wimp, perhaps?
Who are they?
Sorry?
Who are they? Those civilians carrying guns in the bushes, fighting with the soldiers.
Yeah, good. Who are they? Now, again, we have to go back to the starting point. These are children.
No, in your opinion, they are neither secessionists.
They are restorationists. And those ones have picked up arms to defend themselves. Again, we have to be clear. Mr. Babila, on the 8th of December 2016, Akum Julius was killed. Clement was killed for doing nothing except watching march passes that were going on Commercial Avenue. On the 17th of January 2017, Barrister Bala and Fontem and Patasang, they were called for a meeting. You know what happened. They were arrested, some ran to the bushes. On the 22nd of September 2017, people took to the street to demand their release and to say enough is enough. More than 300 fell on that day. In the mosque at Old Town, 4 people were shot. I can name one name, Babaji, because it was right in front of my eyes. Luckily, he didn't die. My own nephew was shot with a helicopter gunshot on the arm. Luckily, he did not die. Many people were shot on that day. People's parents were killed. You know what happened even in October in Boya? Children were raped and so on. And the people said enough is enough. The only thing we can do is defend ourselves. The government of La République du Cameroon would not act responsibly. They increase firepower, they increase brutalization, and it radicalized people. Do you think we are happy with all this? No.
Oh, back to
we are not safe. Nobody is safe. But again, not to go back and see where it starts doesn't help the case. It makes it worse.
That is why we want to talk about that date, 1st of October, 1961.
1st of October 1961 is a very historic day. This is the day that was set for the independence of Southern Cameroon. We've had a lot of twists. Like again, I told you, history is mostly written by the winners. The winners in the history of Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon, by and large, have been La République du Cameroon, supported by her master France. So Southern Cameroonians have not had the opportunity to write their history the way they would have wanted, even to articulate it, except most recently. And now we have a clear picture with many other sources that we have to really understand what happened in 1959, 1960, warming up to 1961. Let me wrap.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. Let me not take so much time in trying to explain this. But Resolution 1608 is a United Nations resolution that handed independence to the people of Southern Cameroon, the same way United Nations handed independence to the people of French Cameroon via France in 1960. 64 countries voted for the independence of Southern Cameroon, amongst which we have the United States. 23 countries voted against because it was about majority. That's how democracy works. 23 countries, almost if not all Central African countries that were under France, including La République du Cameroon, voted against the independence of Southern Cameroon. 10 were absent. So today, even if you give the 10th that were absent, you will sum it up to 23 that La République was amongst those who denied voting for independence of Southern Cameroon. It makes 33. Still, it doesn't match the overwhelming majority that voted for this independence to the people of Southern Cameroon, Resolution 1608. This independence is not what we are debating with anyone. These instruments of the United Nations gave it to us with supporting resolutions like 1352 and of course 1514, which clearly states that instruments of governance has to be given back to the people that were under trustee or being a colony. It has to be given back to them. But justice was not served. Justice was betrayed at that same point, because instead of giving it to Foncha, who was a premier then in 1961, it was given to Aijo, who was a premier, who was already the president of La République du Cameroon in 1961 instead. So this day is a significant day, and people have the total right. We have our parents who have been exiled, beaten, jailed for mentioning this day as a significant day. But if you go to Yaoundé, there's a place called Hotel de Ville, close to the German embassy. There is a monument clearly stating the independence date of La République du Cameroon. There is no monument stating our own clearly. Clearly, 1st January 1960, the day of independence of French Cameroon. There's a monument there at that big center in between the council and EcoBank, is it EcoBank, Standard Chartered Bank, and the German embassy. It is there. And British Southern Cameroon was given her independence, of course, like you mentioned earlier, but there was a condition tied to
independence. That condition being joining the former La République du Cameroon.
Oh yeah,
and that is what gave the independence to British Southern Cameroon at the time.
No, please, that is a misread of history. By joining or upon joining La République du Cameroon was not the condition of that independence.
There were two questions.
Those were arguments.
There were two questions.
Those were arguments of governance.
There were two questions. Gaining independence by joining La République or by joining Nigeria.
Yeah, so I'm saying that. No, because you said...
So the British Southern Cameroon decided to join La République.
Which never happened,
to
right?
have independence by joining La République.
Yeah, so which never happened. That's what they hoped for. After arguments between Ndele, our parents, and of course Foncha, that when they attempted, they thought it would work, which never happened. And again, I want to make something clear.
Why do you think that never happened? If it never happened,
so let me finish.
Do we have
let me finish.
The Republic of Cameroon today?
The article that gave the independence is not the same article that stipulates how a relationship should be run with La République du Cameroon. So the only way we could join La République du Cameroon is before independence and not vice versa. So that independence was given. Now, how you're asking me how did it not work? It didn't work. Southern Cameroonians freely, even though it was against their will, because in 1959 the Mamfi Conference did not even have this question. This question was totally away, joining La République du Cameroon. No, there were only two questions: by themselves being independent, or by going back to Nigeria. The third question was, this question of joining La République du Cameroon was imposed, and then the question that was voted by overwhelming majority in the Mamfi Conference of 1959 was pushed aside, which is total independence.
And that option wasn't given. That option was not there.
Yeah, which was the will of the people. So now we decided, given the stakes that are and were, with all the warnings EML Endele gave, with all his advice, all his prophecies, given the conditions at that time, our parents decided that, okay, let's join La République du Cameroon. Now, it was supposed to be, according to the United Nations articles, again in our resolution 1608, a federation of two equal states. Very explicit.
And that was the base, that was the foundation, that was where it started, the union started?
It never happened. La République du Cameroon has never entered a federation with...
It was a federal state before.
So let me, can I just finish? La République du Cameroon, mark my words, have never intellectually, historically, legally entered into a federation with Southern Cameroons. They didn't do it.
There was a federal constitution.
For any federation to work, for any federation to be recognized, these are three things that must happen. Number one, the entities must ratify a treaty. That's number one. This is according to the United Nations. Number two, both entities who have recognized the treaties must take it to their House of Assemblies. In the case of British Southern Cameroon, that was supposed to be the Southern Cameroon's House of Chiefs. That's their assembly. And La République had their parliament already. This never happened. The third thing is that the premiers of the state have to sign this document. In this case, Aijo was supposed to sign and Foncha was supposed to sign. This did not happen. And the last thing that is supposed to happen is that that document is supposed to be deposited with the United Nations. United Nations has no union treaty from these Cameroons.
There was never a union treaty.
They don't have it, sir. They don't have it. What I want to say is that we must recognize the truth of history and stuff that runs the world. The United States, before they became a federation, all the 13 colonies signed the treaty for them to be called the United States. I don't know if you're following me. We have the European Union, which is pretty much a very young union that has been created in 1992. In Maastricht in 1992, there in Holland, all the 12 countries that started the union signed a treaty, which is now with the United Nations. The USSR did not sign one. That is why it collapsed. Yugoslavia did not sign one. That is why it collapsed. Eritrea and Ethiopia did not sign. That is why it collapsed. Ditto for Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon. Those are facts. No treaty was ever entered. In my opinion, by admission of President Biya in 2019 in France, that they have tried to assimilate or integrate us into a system, but it didn't work because of identity problem and cultural problem. In my opinion, this was the scheme to annex a people, because the bad will, they were not interested, not even in a union, not to talk of federation. So there has been no federation.
During the recent Paris Peace Summit, the President of the Republic made a statement which was later interpreted as a confession of an attempt of assimilation, which has not worked over the years. But there was a federal constitution. So what do you make of the federal constitution?
The federal constitution, again, I'm telling you, again, it was myopic, it was dubious, it was a forgery. Why do I say so? It was a prepared constitution by French Cameroon. Aijo only brought it and served. It wasn't an agreement and a constitution that came as a result, or which is a product of deliberation from two equal states as stipulated in the resolution. No, it was served. But even if it was served, for crying out loud, the procedures to make, as I mentioned earlier, the procedures to make a treaty, to make a country, a union in this international sphere, none of them were met. The premiers didn't sign, the houses didn't sign, it wasn't deposited at the United Nations. This is why you see we've been saying that even federation, where is the union treaty? You can't have a federation without a union treaty. It doesn't work. But of course, our parents not that they were really fooled, they took it as a gentleman's agreement. And look, Babila is my brother. I come to Babila and I say, Babila, please, I need 1 million. Babila doesn't go hitting his head, Abdul, come, let's sign papers. You say, no, I trust you and my brother, take it. That was the sort of thing. But now you agree with me that for the sake of our children, even if we are not going to have problems,
trust agreement.
Trust agreement. Even if we are not
based on trust.
Yes, and now you see what has happened. So what has happened is that we cannot trust such moves anymore, and then we've shown beyond the shadows of doubt that we are not even welcome to be trusted, and neither, because if I want you to trust me, I need to trust you.
And today, the Independence Day of former British Southern Cameroon is practically a non-event, even to many former Southern Cameroonians, or to many Cameroonians from the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and there is some sort of kind of militarization of the day. Today, or on the 1st of October, the streets of Boya, Kumba, Bamenda, many parts of the town were deserted.
Oh yeah, the people choose because they know that they are going to be met with brutality. If they were to celebrate it the way 28th May was made to be understood, or 11th February, these dates that we were enslaved totally, they know, so they prefer to stay in the house. But what is celebration and what is independence? Freedom is just a process of asking to be given a chance to do better. And freedom is not something that it has been bestowed. It is something that has been achieved. The people of Southern Cameroon, in our opinion, have achieved freedom mentally. So nobody can take this out. If you go online, you see them wishing happy independence all across the board. I agree with you that there are many Anglophones who, because of their privileges and status, deny this day. There's a big difference again between an Anglophone and a Southern Cameroonian. There's a big difference. Anybody who, whether intellectually, stupidly, or arrogantly, argues about the status of Southern Cameroon as a territory and a people who freely wanted to join La République du Cameroon, a people who had 2 independent governments, the first democracy in Africa. If you argue that and you keep pinning them to a federation that does not exist, you are an Anglophone. The only thing that makes you qualified is just because you speak English. Mr. Babila, if I reject, listen, let me just finish. If I reject my father's house today, if I say I don't belong to that family and I make it totally clear and I keep saying that, yes, but my name is Ali, I am fooling myself. I've rejected that family. I can bear the name, but I don't belong there. So for anybody to be rejecting Southern Cameroon as a state that it is and was, you're simply an Anglophone like any other person who can speak English.
Today, it's Northwest, it's become Northwest and Southwest regions of the country. That is what is in the official.
No, you keep insisting. I mean,
and
you just said,
and those you're saying that are rejecting Southern Cameroons and so on, they have not denied that they don't come from they come from the Northwest or the Southwest regions. They acknowledge that they come from Santa, they come from Akum, they come from Bayangi, they come from Muya and all those places in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country. But there's another issue concerning these independence dates that are not celebrated in the French-speaking part of the country. There is 1st January, which is not equally celebrated anyway, which is not celebrated, but there's rather another date which is celebrated as the National Unity Day, which is the 20th of May, referring to what happened in 1972, when the people decided to become a one and indivisible Cameroon.
No, nobody decided to do that. Against where is the treaty? Where is the document to show that? None. Foncha signed nothing in Fumba, just like they signed nothing in 1961. There is no document to show that. That is President Aidjo's wife's birthday, and that is just 2 years after they discovered that we had a lot of oil in the southern zone of Southern Cameroon, Jan precisely, and then the federal constitution, though as dubious as it is, did not allow for free and fair, free and careless exploitation of the resources. So hence, let's proceed to unity. But all of this was a grand scheme, Mr. Babila.
Is it a
let's throw it to them as a federation, and then again we throw the unity. And so you're saying this, that Northwest, Southwest. Mr. Biya came on camera in front of Mo Ibrahim and said, we have tried to integrate them. What have they tried to do? They obliterated the land. They balkanized the land into what you are calling Northwest and Southwest. They did all of these things. Those are the things they tried to do, and he himself said it didn't work. So I'm saying, if the French Cameroon president is telling you clearly that they tried to even call you Northwest and Southwest and it didn't work, and you insist you are Northwest and Southwest.
But that is what is written in the book.
So you're free to do that.
That's what is written in the books.
Which book?
Nationally and internationally.
So get the point.
We have Southwest and Northwest.
This book doesn't have.
It
doesn't have a treaty of union.
Nationally and internationally, we have
Southwest and Northwest regions
of the country and Cameroon,
Let me say something.
Republic of Cameroon.
Can you nail something in the air? You need a wall or a plank, right?
Of course.
Okay, so you cannot.
You cannot
start.
But you know that when you go up to Mars, you can hang things in the air, and there's nothing to hang anything on it.
Unfortunately, we're on the earth, Mr. Babila.
All right, we're going to take some interviews now, and when we come back, we'll talk about back to school.
All right.
In the past 10 days in our country, over a dozen lives have been lost in the extreme north, the northwest, and the southwest regions. These lives that are being lost, be they civilians or members of the armed forces, are the most precious thing we have as a nation. It is also necessary to remember that the conflict in these regions is a direct result of the extremely poor governance our country has known over the past 38 years. We as Cameroonians must act now to put an end to this continuous loss of life. The Biya regime can no longer deceive Cameroonians as to its true nature. It has chosen to lead the entire country into violence. The president of the CRM and other political leaders are currently under house arrest or in detention. The government of Cameroon is once again acting illegally, brutally, and in violation of the fundamental human rights guaranteed by our Constitution.
The Northwest and the Southwest, we have been having this social crisis almost 4 years, and one of those who have suffered a lot is our children who are not able to go to school. And because of the importance of education all over, where it is possible, we have made sure that our schools remain open, and we think that without education, we cannot be able to bring up our children in a proper way, and that the parents should have the opportunity in order to send their children so that their children should be educated so that they can be responsible citizens in our nation tomorrow. That is why we call on all the parents, we call on all the young people who are not going to school to take the challenge that come 2020-2021 academic year. We should all avail ourselves of the opportunity to be educated.
I can affirm now that after having gotten to all the 9 administrative units of Ndian Division is relatively calm today, the 1st of October 2020. People are going about their normal businesses. Parents are preparing to send their children back to school. Already some school teachers, head teachers, principals are in their various establishments receiving new students.
At a time when we are grappling with the Anglophone crisis, which has worsened and has been compounded by other factors that have come to aggravate it, and it's now nearly 5 years, and we don't seem to see a solution, at least not from what I see. With the killings and the number of militia on the rampage, we're in a tight situation. And that is where I think that we need all hands on deck. We need everybody who can make a contribution towards solving this problem to come on board. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever contribution you can make, if it is to save one life, it is important. Now, if translators who could assuage the pain of many, francophone or anglophone, who have a difficulty of communicating or have a sense of belonging because they cannot speak in the language in which they feel most comfortable, it's a problem. If I have a sense of belonging, if I feel that I am Cameroonian because I can speak English or French wherever I go to, it would dissipate some of the anger, the pain, the discontentment that is fueling the bitterness and the violence that we're facing today. So my appeal to government would be, where have you kept translators and interpreters? Well, I'm told there's a bilingualism commission. Well, I'm good. But for a bilingualism commission that has not one professional among 15 people, not one seasoned translator among 15 members, not one renowned interpreter among 15 people, you tell me you want to deal with bilingualism? Seriously? Okay, well, someone told me it was a political decision and a political structure to solve the problem. But that it was not even meant to solve the problem. Okay. So what has it become? What has it achieved? No, I think that we live only once. We all love this country. Let us use translators and interpreters to help, even just by one notch, one bit, to bridge the gap between the separating and departing and contesting parties that are anglophones and francophones in this country.
It should be noted that the COVID-19 pandemic has not yet been defeated, let alone eradicated in Cameroon. This government communications aims to better inform and reassure the various stakeholders of the national educational community on the measures taken so far by those responsible for the different levels of education, that is to say, the members of government here present, in order to allow the pupils, students, as well as their trainers, to start and witness the smooth resumption of the 2020-2021 school year without running the risk of jeopardizing their health as a result of the COVID-19. It needs to be recalled that the future of the nation fully relies on the comprehensive and well-accomplished training of our young pupils and students. As we know, the head of state personally attaches the highest importance to all matters that relate to the training of his young compatriots and to a meticulous and successful organization of the school year in our country. It is a requirement that cannot be compromised. It is for this reason that despite the pandemic, which was already a call for concern, a few months ago, the government had decided to organize a partial and well-targeted resumption of classes with a view to complete the 2019-2020 school year for pupils and students in exam classes. Given that the resumption of classes and the organization of the end of year exams which followed could be ensured without any major incident which could be detrimental to the health and life of our young learners or the teaching staff. It is in this light, and considering both the need for classes to resume in a context where the coronavirus pandemic is still present, and the absolute requirement to implement all the measures taken to cope with this pandemic, that the government has decided to set the start of the school year on October 5, 2020 for nursery, primary, and secondary school pupils, and on October 15, 2020 for learners in higher education.
If there were no COVID-19, we would not be here. It is COVID-19 that has brought us here. We all have a problem. It's a problem which is not a problem of teachers, not a problem of students. It's a problem of everyone in Cameroon. And as we know, it's a pandemic, therefore, the whole world. And when we are here to solve a problem, it means that all of us have a contribution to make as far as the solution of this problem is concerned. The first thing is that we all want to go to school. We have been proven right that we decided to open the school year, and as a result, we did not have a blank year. We had a very good year. In fact, were it not for the COVID-19, we would have recorded excellent results. As to whether or not schools should begin, in Cameroon, we have said schools should begin. We have been right once, we were right then, we shall be right this time as well. Now is the biggest challenge so far, because at first we only did the examination classes. That was easier to handle. It was small numbers. Here we're talking about some schools, very big schools with thousands and thousands of students. How are you going to effect the social distancing? But we're saying no to the pandemic. And therefore, we have put out some social measures. Let me begin by saying the idea is to expand the measures that we had used during the examination period. So that is easy. If it's water, we have more water. Washing of hands, we wash hands more regularly. If we're disinfecting classrooms, it is done more regularly. Let me just say that's the expansion. There is an expansion of those measures.
The question whether where the people are moving to or whether they are not moving shouldn't be apparent at this moment, because the only other option place for them to move to is the grave. So they either choose to move out of here or stay and move to the grave. And we as the government and the people in authority in charge, we don't want anybody to move to the grave. So we're giving them a free hand within the next 24 hours to move somewhere else.
Welcome back. Those were interviews of the week. The 2020-2021 academic year is coming up in some few days from now. It's coming up in some few hours from now. But there are still lots or many children, many pupils and students, many of them who have not gone to school for the past close to 4 years today, who still have uncertainty looming on their academic future in the northwest and southwest regions of the country because of the crisis. ABDULKARIM Ali, is it right to take hostage the education of children?
Oh no, it is never right, and this is a big question La Republique of Cameroon should be answering. Unfortunately, the questions are being asked to the wrong people. It is totally and completely wrong to take the right of education, but it is totally and completely wrong to tamper or trample with any single right of a human being. Right to self-determination precedes right to education. Right to self-determination is next to right to live. Human right is a product of liberalism, a concept that shows that a person is free to do what they want so long as they fit within the laws, especially internationally. Self-determination is ultimately the right of the people of Southern Cameroon. If we talk about the right to education, we should talk about all the rights. Why are these people being killed, being jailed? Because of their right to self-determination that they expressed.
Of course, we've been talking about practically all the rights, even the right to life and the right to self-determination all along. But I want us to focus on the right to education.
Yeah, I was just giving that background.
The school-going children in the northwest and southwest.
I was just giving that background. No child is supposed to be stopped from going to school. What are we without education? But again, we must draw a very good line between schooling and education. Schools are just places where instructions are being given in the process of learning. Education is a process of acquiring knowledge. It could be in school, it could be elsewhere. Now, to go to school, you need to travel. You need to move from your home that you live and go to this place that has been established as a school facility. Now, in these places you're mentioning, in the southern Cameroons, the streets, as you said, are heavily militarized. We wake up every morning with dead bodies and guns over their head. The United States of America and other countries of the world stopped school for 7 months today, simply because they were afraid of the pandemic. Now I say that, what about our children going amidst this gun? Is their life also not important? Yes, it is. What will I do with a dead, half-educated, dead child? I'll prefer an illiterate one who, by the way, Jesus was not schooled formally, neither was Muhammad. I'm not saying school is not important, but the big question should be, can the children go to school? Can.
That is the question.
Should they go to school? Yes. Why shouldn't they go to school? Can they go to school, Mr. Babila? Me, an adult, can I move freely in Bamenda? The answer I'm giving you is no.
One more
and
of children.
One more of children, one more of teachers. And when you talk about schooling, when you talk about schooling in our setting where basic education is very important, you're not looking at university students who can take care of themselves, they can even run perhaps, or even children in colleges like Form 4, Form 5, lowest and opposite. You're not talking about that. You're more concerned about perhaps Form 1 and 2 kids, pupils from primary 1 to 6, and then nursery children. Where would they run to if something happens? There are guardians who take them to school. What do they do with 3 children in their hands if this bullet starts? Isn't it time we look at the man in the mirror and ask that man in the mirror, can children go to school? And this man in the mirror should be the government of the Republic of Cameroon. No!
There are back-to-school campaigns going on here and there. The administrative authorities and even the military also struggling to create an enabling environment for children to go to school without being caught on the way by a bullet or any other thing that can kill them and things like that. What do you think about all those efforts being made for children to go to school?
Yeah, in historical language and also a religious language, it is called anachronism. In other words, trying to make true of what happened yesterday, trying to make it true today. Those realities cannot work. The military presence is the only thing causing grave chaos. The military of La République du Cameroon cannot pretend to create an enabling condition. Nobody can accept that. Mr. Babila, all they need to do is demilitarize those streets. Let these children go to school. That is as simple as that. Demilitarize those streets.
But the authorities will tell you that is abandoning the children to a chaotic kind of situation, abandoning the children in the hands of armed civilians.
That's not true. These armed civilians,
the state is endowed with the responsibility to protect those children.
Oh, really? Oh, 1st of October 2017, 22nd of September 2017 till date. Baby matter. Gabu. Are you kidding me? To protect which life? Let's not pretend. We don't really matter. The truth is that we know what is the problem. And we know that military presence would only aggravate stuff. If there's no military, on the street, children will go to school. While La République du Cameroon engages in meaningful negotiations with the people of Southern Cameroon to bring justice that will be followed with peace. It is as simple as that.
But some of the children who tried to go to school before now saw their hands cut off, some of them killed, some of them their body chopped up into pieces.
This is because we are dealing with a war situation and pretending that it's a crisis. War produces many things. It produces the honest person, it produces the ugly person, it produces the spoilers, it produces opportunists, armed robbers would flow in, and militias that we know that are being created, as we are told by government officials. It produces all of these things, and to pin your hand on who is difficult. This is why the whole world, what have they been saying? Cease fire. When you cease fire, then we can know who the criminal is.
What proof do you have of the presence of government militias in those two regions?
No, not government militias. I said militias militias organized by government workers. That's what I said. And of course, a lot of vigilantes. We have them. We have them everywhere. They even tell you who their bosses are. So what evidence do I have? I don't have evidence, because when you're talking about evidence, you need hard ones. But by words that we see that we hear on the street, yes, we have a lot of militias, a lot of them, because we have things happening and the claim is being laid on another group, and the group comes out and debunks it. So definitely they exist.
Some of the atrocities which have been committed, and armed civilians who are fighting for justice or fighting for their rights say, we didn't commit this act, we have nothing to do with this. Then the question now is, to who? Should it be attributed? Who did it? And that question remains there. But beyond the question, the overall thing is that the atmosphere or the socio-political climate and everything remains chaotic and even very, very dangerous for the children to go to school in some parts of the country.
Yeah, now that you've asked again, let me paint the picture a little bit bigger. Schooling and education are the biggest businesses on earth. When I say business, it's not really that process of making money, but interaction between human beings. Of course, that brings money. You cannot have good education via schooling without good security, which is totally absent in the Southern Cameroons, without good rules, which is worse in the Southern Cameroons, without taking care of these guns. Why, Mr. Babila? For you to have good educational environment, you need good transportation. School supplies, accessories have to be supplied. How would they be supplied? Children have to eat in boarding schools, in nursery schools, in primary school. How would food leave farm to market to producers, and producers to consumers? Very difficult. Now, you need parents to be able to pay their school fees. How would they pay school fees when the economy is on the floor? They will not be able to do it. You need a good security to ensure that banks are working and working well, because that is the best place where people should be paying school fees and all of these things. And then you need a good taxation and all of these things, and then you need a good curriculum. All of these things are under question by the people of Southern Cameroons. Isn't it time we stop pretending, sit and talk about these issues and move on? These are the things Southern Cameroonians are hitting their hands on the table and questioning. Today you bring me on TV and you want us to talk about 1960. You want us to talk about 1961. But you studied all of these things. Many people have studied it. But the honest truth is that in your heart, there are things that you and I are discovering now. Why? Because we were not taught. If you don't teach people things like this in their curriculum to the bitter end, what else do you want to teach them?
No, there have been communiques and counter-communiques with regards to back to school. Some saying children should go to school. Some saying, yes, it is time for us to leave this school strategy of taking the education of students and pupils hostage.
Where are the some you're referring to?
These communiques have been coming up on social media and so on from the different groups. What is your take?
Like
where
who?
Is your stand?
Where is the example? Who said what?
Where is your stand, ABDULKARIM Ali? Should the children go to school?
Again, I've said, should the children go to school? Yes, they should. Can they go? No. The situation and the conditions don't enable the children to go to school. This is my clear answer. And can you tell me who you said some people said school should return?
You think that children should go to school? Everybody, all the parties involved should let the children go to school.
Every Southern Cameroonian
should allow the children to go to school.
There is not a single Southern Cameroonian, if you know one, tell me, who says children should not and cannot go to school. They are telling you that they should not go to school and will not go to school. They are telling you that the children cannot go to school because of the insecurity. Even the people you're mentioning, let me give you the names. I know you're talking about Eric Tato and Mark Beretta. Trust me, they have not said that children should go to school. They said if the security conditions permit, Isn't that what everyone is talking about? If the security conditions permit for the children, the teachers, and the students, children should go to school. Because people have twisted their tongues and the Post newspaper takes it and is running with it. No, I saw their writings, and it is clear that if the security conditions permit, and this is the position of everyone.
If the security situations are conducive, the children should go to school. ABDULKARIM Ali, Muslim scholar, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me once more.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Goodbye.